siguiendo el protocolo, quiero hacer mención de un hecho distinguido de este evento, que es la presencia del presidente mundial, el profesor doctor Roberto de Marca. Por favor, Roberto. Quiero hacer, antes de darle la palabra a Roberto, que me acompaña, dos comentarios. Ayer hubo elecciones en Brasil. Digamos que no es tan agradable tener que viajar a otro país para después de unas elecciones, porque seguramente habrá discusiones, festejos, no sé si festejó o no festejó, no se sabe eso todavía, se verá. Pero se ha hecho el tiempo para estar con nosotros, para venir específicamente a esta celebración. Y por otro lado, yo conozco parte de la agenda de este señor. El presidente mundial del IEEE está dedicado 48 horas por día, o sea, un día no alcanza. Se falta 2 días por día para poder llevar toda la agenda. Y realmente es un honor que nos haya distinguido con su presencia. Roberto de Marca es una institución dentro del IEEE. Los que tienen más o menos mi edad lo conocen como mínimo hace 15 años. Como mínimo. Porque Jesús lo conocí hace 20 años. Y realmente ha tenido una trayectoria que tiene distintos planos. Desde el punto de vista del IEEE como voluntario, ha sido presidente de sociedad, secretario mundial, vicepresidente del Estado, una actividad continua. Pero a su vez es fellow de IEEE, es un distinguido profesor en la Universidad Católica de Río de Janeiro, ha estudiado y se doctoró en la Universidad de Southern California y es miembro de la Academia de Ciencia y de Ingeniería de Brasil, de las 2 academias. Por lo tanto, tiene una trayectoria como voluntario, pero también como un profesional distinguido, y por lo tanto, gracias, y te damos este gran aplauso. Roberto.
I'm going to speak in English, but I know some people don't understand Portuguese very well. But it's a great honor and pleasure to be here. During my tenure as president, had some very special opportunities. For example, being the Sectional Congress, the first one which was held outside of North America. I had the privilege to present the October Medal to Steve Wozniak from Apple. And now I'm here for the 75th anniversary of the Argentina section. When I started working as a volunteer, the Argentina section was sort of a serial section. So I felt they were very organized, a very really excellent example for the Brazilian sections. So it's very good that I'm happy to see lots of senior professionals, very successful. I always looked up to the Argentina section. So I'm very happy to be here today for these reasons, also because I have been one of the founders of the section, Scott Fernandez, that I met many years ago. I don't remember exactly when. I would say at least 20, 25 years. He invited me for lunch with his forgetful son, Hugo, a friend too. And we had lunch at a very nice restaurant. I don't remember which one. It was a very nice moment. So one of the first I met, one of the friends I have here in the section, I work with several others, El Sabio, Dr. Hillary, and now the current ones too. So it's been a pleasure to have all these friends here. And also I like Buenos Aires a lot, so it's good to come here with these people. But as he says, my agenda is a little busy. I was yesterday morning in Brazil, actually Saturday in an event, the site event in Brasilia. Then I flew back to Rio. I had a vote. Then this morning I came here. Tomorrow I go back to Rio. Thursday I go to the States. I keep doing things. So but anyway, it's always good to be with friends. And now I have a problem that Daniela has caused me. Well, she first told me to give you a presentation, a 12-hour presentation. Then negotiated down to an hour and a half. And now she tells me about 1 hour. So I don't know, I'm going to have to skip some slides. So I kept adding things because she asked me a very broad talk, which I hope will be interesting to the students and also to to the more senior people here, more volunteers and engineers. And she even asked me to include something about the history of engineering. So I said, okay, that's a more difficult thing, but I'll try. So I need, I guess, someone here to switch the slides. So of course, the first old achievement of engineering I think of is the pyramids. And I guess most people don't understand very well how they did it. They still try to figure that out. But the fact that they are still standing, and they are like 6,000, 7,000 years old, 6,000 years old, and they're still standing. So for me, it's one of the important engineering achievements. But now, if you have advanced a few thousand years, there's some other interesting engineering achievements. One of these I like once is this. Go ahead. I don't know whether you have been to the Pantheon in Rome. It has this big dome which was built about 100 years after Christ, which it has a hole here. So the tensions here don't close to the point here. So although it's lighter at the top, but it also has a problem to sustain that in concrete. So anyway, some smart guy figured that out. I'm not sure they had all the mathematics to do it, but they did. And then more recently, which is very impressive, and I know that in our region, next, the Panama Canal. So that's another impressive engineering feat. A lot of people died, I guess, both constructed pyramids in the Panama Canal, but it's amazing. And now be 100 years old in our region and so on. But now let's move to the more recent, somewhat more recent achievements of our area and what was ITP played a role. So ITP has also having one anniversary here. Today you have not today, but it's 130 years old this year, and when it started. So hopefully, and I'm sure that it will continue to be like that, but a lot of these people made big achievements and contribute to society in the last 100 years, 130 years. They were part of that community. They assembled actually, they participated actually, and I hope we are also improving. I'll talk about improving our lives later on. So again, ITP was founded, not ITP, but one of the predecessors, IEEE, was founded in 1884 in Philadelphia, and so they decided to create a society. Actually, this was one of the first technical meetings, engineering meetings that were held, and decided to create a society. And people assembled there at the board meeting. It's hosted myself, Fernandez. Roberto should be proud that the original board members included Graham Bell, Thomas Edison, so people are the same level. And so they actually, Graham Bell and Thomas Edison were two of the first vice presidents. And so next, but then they start working. They created a telephone. They also some telegraph, and so that's still the 19th century, and Morse and stealing the telegraph. Next, then Edison was also working, besides being an ITP volunteer, he was also working in trying to figure out how to provide electric light, have a generator, the bulb. He did try several times, and actually should take from him that they should not give up. To be persistent, because he failed several times and he eventually succeeded. So for the students here, don't give up. If you have a good idea, if you can work, keep trying. You eventually figure out how to make things work. Next. And then eventually came to my area, wireless communication, Marconi, doing regional initial communications and signal transmission by radio. And then of course there's the other predecessor society by which we call IRE, which was radio engineers. So these are the guys who really worked on this. It's really amazing. Like I was in let's say my agenda is busy. 10 days ago was a milestone on the border of Germany and Switzerland. Was the first on the old power plant, the first power plant to generate three-phase and 50 hertz. So they were the first one to, and also they started a grid in Europe. But it was interesting to see the names discussing whether they should 50 hertz or 60 hertz or 30 hertz or Westinghouse, Tesla. Those are the guys at that time that were discussing this development. So the big guys are all participating. And Tesla, Marconi, they all received medals from IEEE. Hã? Não, não foi. Eu tinha colegas que eram, mas eu nunca cheguei a ficar. Eu tinha, às vezes, o rádio, todas as cursos, eu ficava ouvindo transmissões da Rússia, de outros locais. Anyway, actually, Marconi has something in Rio that he tried to light the Christ in Rio from Europe. And everything was set up to be done, except there was a lot of bad weather, so they couldn't get the waves all the way to the light. Actually, it wasn't a boat, so I guess the boats of England tried to light through a propagation of waves the Christ in Rio in 1931, and eventually they failed because of the bad weather. But it was an interesting experiment. Thanks. And then, of course, we kept that this is part of our life now, the radio, but it was developed in the 20s, so that's it's much older probably than people think, and it was very successful in the US. Because there are like 14 million households with radio by the end of the 1920s. And also, my father had one of the first TVs in Rio because we had a relative which was admiral. He kind of smuggled a TV from my father to the Navy ship. But I mean, that was like 1950, 1951. But in 1939, the guy, Dave Sarnoff, was inaugurating TV service. So it's older by a decade that it came to Brazil. Again, all this media, which eventually now we have Facebook, and also we started in smartphones in the 20s and 30s. Next. And that's also very old, interesting, is the transmission of long-distance transmission over the ocean. Of course, AT&T at that time in the US and Britain were doing things like that in 1927, which is again very old. Everything after, I'm going to keep talking until I stop at maybe in the 70s, 80s, and then I'll come back later to talk about more things. Now, next. And of course, the computer came along, and as she said, she used a PC. And, I guess I was trying to fool us with her age, but she said, well, the PC is on 99. And anyway, the ENIAC was the first one. This is also one of the milestones in the University of Pennsylvania. And it's kind of large, but still worked. Next. And then, of course, had all the transistor being created from the people from the Bell Labs. They were also physicists, Shockley, Pardee, and Bartain in the late 40s, and they created the transistor. Actually going to be a milestone in Bell Labs in early December, actually before milestone, but we several things in Bell Labs. And then Jack Kilby got first the insert, and Jack Kilby actually named of one of the Edgar medals. And it's just a joke here, maybe some will get, some will not. Every year, the presidents have to share the honor ceremony, which takes place every year around June. And that's where they give all, it's a very impressive ceremony. If you're going to 10 months, you'll be very impressed. It's very well put together. You have all the top medals, Medal of Honor, which is like a Nobel Prize. You have a lot of other medals, technical, more technical. One of the medals is after, Seal Processing Medal, is named after Jack Kilby. The problem is that his second name has an S. So it's a difficult thing to talk. If you do that, speak fast like the others, Jack S. Kilby. And so there's all a training of whoever's going to say presidents, Jack S. Kilby. No jackass. And I don't know how many of you had one of those small radios when they create transistor. I had one of them. At that time, in the brain, I read like a speaker, which was Spiker, but it's a Japanese one. So I had that thing, which was so one of those first radios.
That's fun.
Yeah, so that's what I think for those people, young people haven't seen those, but it's very nice. And eventually went to the integrated circuit commercial ones, and of course this continued to evolve. Next. More computers using now transistors, so Neumann, big computers, one of the fathers of computing. And next. Actually, I did use something similar to this in my school. We have an IBM 7044, which more or less look like this, kind of big. You have you need a huge floor to put the computer, and you need to be in a high floor like this, you have to put the cables underneath, you have air conditioning, and you program with the cards, one of the cards, and the power was almost like maybe 1/10 of your cell phone. More or less, 1,000 of your cell phone. So it's a huge thing. It didn't work. It takes some time. I mean, those were still that time could carry that box with cards to be able to run the computer, and the power they had was very limited for in comparison to today. Next, and then of course there's the space. This is a major achievement of engineering. Sending someone to space and back. Send someone to the space, not so bad, but bring it back is an important thing. And also the satellite communications now are very small with nanotechnology and so on. But I clearly remember in July 20th, 1969, when I was in Rio, as a student of that, still starting my university, but I could remember the whole buzz about the planes coming to the moon. It was really nice. But that's really, and later I was able to go and visit the NASA control center. You probably have seen that later in the movie, which Houston, we have a problem in one of those movies. But it was a very impressive visit, very impressive place. So this is really for me one of the very impressive achievements of engineering and science ever. Maybe we don't need that anymore, but it was really a challenge which we came up and did it. Next. And then of course, the circles start being more and more and more integrated. And now you all know about this guy here, Gordon Moore, who has the Moore's Law, which says that you'll be able to double the density of circuits every 2 years. And that is amazingly has held for more than 40 years. So that's an amazing also prediction and challenge to the industry too. But now it's a prediction, but at the same time, you're challenging it, you have to do that. And his own company, Intel, was doing it with Andy Grove and Bob Noyce. They all have gotten big medals, like 3 Medal of Honor. When Gordon Moore got his, I never saw someone being so looked after in their lives of people who talk to him and amazing charisma. So anyway, this is the first integrated microprocessor, had 2,000 chips. Now they got close to 1 billion chips. But some of you have all used this thing too. HP calculator, which also a major achievement, had reverse Polish notation, which was kind of strange. The Texas came with a more direct way of using it. And of course the first Apple computer, which eventually now has the iPads and so on. Next. And of course medical electronics. I'll talk more about this in the end. That's a field which has been very important to prolong lives and improve quality of life. And that's from even implantable pacemakers now cocktails for the ear and things are more sophisticated. I don't like these CAT scans, but they're used with very small holes, but they are very useful. They can save lives. And next. So, this is a kind of a progression up to the 80s. I'll come back to 90s, and after later in the talk, I'll advance that to look at the future. Start with what's happening today, because of course the next important thing that technology did was internet, and how internet has grown and changed our lives, for good and for better, for worse. It has changed lives. So I think that sometimes it's for good, sometimes it's for worse. They're not really, everybody's addicted to look at the screen these days. They can't stay. When they're playing land, the first thing people do is take up their phones and try to look at some things, and young people have a terrible difficulty in paying attention to classes without looking at their screens. They will have to stay 2 hours without looking at any screen except looking at speed. And that's a major challenge. They have to find out, I have to go to the restroom, I have to go somewhere, not feeling well, and they're going to take a look at it. Anyway, but we'll talk about that later. Well, I'm going to speak a little bit about IEEE. I'm not sure all of you know, because there are some young people here, and of course some of you know a lot. Next. And that's what EPI does. And they publish literature, scientific engineering literature. We're going to talk about how much. We organize conference a lot. We develop standards, and I'm sure several of you are using that in some way now. And probably the most important one for me is the networking of people. From the days that you could network with Bell, and Thomas Edison, and Nicholas Tesla, and so on, until today, that you put together best professionals in the world, and they are both in the same place, they are able to talk, and you're able to talk to them, and learn from them, and become friends with them. So one of the most important things I value in my volunteer career is that I have friends all over the world. And wherever I go, I find someone I met through IEEE, do some technical discussion, technical meeting, and this person became a friend, and we respect each other professionally, and it's always a fantastic experience that I value a lot. A lot of activities among students. We educate public about engineering. Go back to that a little bit. I think Daniela said that there's a challenge to keep the interest of people in students, young people, in engineering and science in the Western world, not so much in China and Asia. It's not a problem, but in the Western world, it's an issue. I know there's in Brazil, or the United States, and I guess probably Argentina too. And there's some humanitarian focus that we started 5 years ago. I'm not talking about that here, but there's something I want to continue, trying to continue. Roberto's part of the research work on that. So that we should use technology to improve the life of those which have some kind of advantage. It can be financial, it can be physical, it can be cognitive, or it can have a disaster. So it's an important thing that we can use our knowledge to help people have some advantage all over the world. Next. And now I see what the yelling is. Anyway, so this is what I call a snapshot dashboard. It's been like the car dashboard. And so we have more than 430,000 members. Now these days, it's the largest professional organization in the world. It has people in more than 160 countries. Of course, some countries are very small, 1, 2, including the Vatican. We have one in the Vatican, but it's not the native from Argentina. I'm going to try to recruit him, but so far he's not a member. And we have actually 39 technical societies from cover the whole spectrum of electrical engineering, computer science, biomedical engineering, education, social education, technology. We have another 6 councils which have cover multidisciplinary areas like superconductivity, and we have that's an astounding number. We sponsor about 1,400 conferences every year. Half of those we own financially, the other half we partner with other organizations trying to help in put together a technical program. And we have a database which another astounding thing, 3.7 million articles. I'll get back to that later, but it's an amazing number. I would say that any engineering graduate student today who does not have access to this database, will be in a serious advantage to the research, will not be able to follow what's current state of the art. And we publish more than 160 journals, magazines, or publications in general, technical publications. Again, we are one of the major publishers in the world in this area. Next. We have 400,000, more or less spread out like this. I don't want to go into detail about these regions, but it's called Region 9 where we are. And I think Argentina is probably the second oldest section in Region 9, in Latin America. We may be only the top 10 in the world in terms of the oldest. But I think Israel, United States, some for several sections, but outside of the US, there may be very few that are older than Argentina. And also Israel and Mexico are, but maybe others. So Canada is here, Latin America, United States. This whole thing here is called Europe, Middle East, Africa, or Region 8. And then there's Asia and Pacific countries. Of course, here we have China and India, so it covers a lot of population. But anyway, so about 20,000 people are in Latin America who are members. 30,000 are just under Canada. 80,000 in Europe, in Africa, Middle East. 110,000 Asia is the fastest growing Asia. And then 200,000 going down in the US. The US has been going down in membership for the past 10 years. Maybe that reflects the economy. And actually, I have some charts that I won't be showing you this here, but show that there's a lot of correlation between how strong is the economy of the country and how many members we have, or what's the growth rate of members we have. But it's a good thing that demographics are changing. So this is the current distribution. The US about 50% of members, 25 almost is in Asia, close to 20% in Division 8, and about 4 to 5% in each of these Latin America and Canada. But if you look at the students, the new generation, the coming generation, then the US is only 28%. 40% in Asia, 8% here, Region 9, 20% Region 8, and we don't Canada is close to Latin America. So there is a expectation that we will continue to have more membership growth outside of the US and other countries going forward, and that's happening for several years now. Region 9 also grew a lot in less than 10 years, maybe 80%. And Asia was the first 100%. Anyway, so it's a big thing. You can read this thing, but basically, in addition to Argentina, there are 332 other sections in the world, and there are, I'm not sure how many student branches you have here in Buenos Aires or. How much students here? 30? Okay, so there's also more than 1,800 in the world, and 2,000 chapters, which are groups of people, local groups of people which are interested in society, some technical subjects, of 2,000 things. So it's a huge, they're huge numbers, a big enterprise. Next. And of course, you have to talk about technical accomplishments. You have heard or seen or used some of those things. I'm sure they all use the first one, Wi-Fi, and maybe several of you use the Bluetooth. I hope you don't go around in the streets and get this small thing here. It doesn't look too good. But you're using your car Bluetooth. And then the others which are natural power. So I think it's a very, very strong presence in standards. That's one of the things we are most famous for nowadays. So sometimes I walk into some security in the airports, and I have the white brace thing, and they'll say, oh, that's the Wi-Fi thing. Yeah. And so that they know from Wi-Fi. But there are more standards. There are more standards, and I see this as an example. Each one of these numbers is a standard. And this example is related to a house future, where you have the smart grid embedded. You have not only communications here in different ways, because there's Wi-Fi, but you have the things related to power, smart meters. You have vehicle batteries, and you can actually give power back to the operator from your battery in the car. And so these are standards which were developed in different areas related to a smart home. For quick case side home, video standards, vehicle, batteries, and smart grid, different next. This one has to do with, I had a third one included here, with personal health. That's where another area that relates. Lots of standards and different things that you use today, including, of course, these watches that you really like to use now, which have all kinds of good things, and they don't like to look at all your vital signals and so on. But there's a lot of standards that are used for that word. Next. Going back to the conference, where actually lots of, when you are a student, you start going to conference, you really feel good about presenting your paper. Very important to go there and try to show, give your contribution, show what you did, get into discussion. Once you become more senior, what you do in conferences, you network, you talk. A lot of important things happen outside of the technical sessions. So the lot of important things here happen in the collaboration area, where you network with people and you develop partnerships. You can use work like even students with people in other countries. So it's a very, very useful. And then next, these are the, I just give a the breadth of conference where they happen. These are the number of conferences in each country. Of these countries, about 35, I guess, 20 in the last 5 years. Actually 6 years. So of course US was number one, but then you see China with 1,000 conferences in China this period. So China is really, we have had some problems in China. Have to be careful to control the quality sometimes, but still, it's an enormous growth and interest. We have actually conference in China. And of course China is a big, I remember when I used to go to communications conference, when I started going to conference late 80s, 90s, and Japan was a really dominant force nation. It was like US and Japan, India and Europe, and classical China. And now, the last conference of communication, or international conference of communication, ICC, the largest numbers of accepted papers was from China. So that's another change, because for a while, they had a large number of submitted papers. They could not get it accepted. The quality was not good, not good enough. But now, they have a large number of accepted papers. So the quality is going up too. The only country in Latin America is Brazil. 72, everything else is in Europe or Asia. Singapore is a very impressive place. Singapore, I have a metric which I think I tested already. The number of actually members per 1 million of population. And try to rank the countries that way. So normalize members by the population. And number one is still the US, number two is Canada, and number three is Singapore. And they have about 6 million population. They have 3,500 active members. It's a very large number of members. And then the other surprise, number four, is United Arab Emirates. They have 1,800 members for 9 million population. They, apparently what makes the difference is the market. So they pay for the membership for their members. But after that, then a lot of countries with 100 members per million, Japan, Germany, Korea, all these top countries, UK, and I don't know where Argentina is, but Brazil is not doing well, really low. Colombia does a good job in Latin Asia now. Okay, now speaking of doing something well, there's those of you in universities have heard about the Journal Citation Report. It's a publication that ranks, it's a ranking of publications that's produced every year. And they use several metrics, but let's take the impact factor, which is the most used one. And then if you do that, you're going to see that the top 20 publications in the world, 19 are from antiquity. So you take all the other publishers, all the for-profit ones, Elsevier, Springer, and they have one among themselves. We have 19. And that's an amazing, if you look at the technical publications, of the top 15, all 15 are from antiquity. So and that's very important, because going forward, with all the internet, all the freedom of information, you have to be high quality, you have to be unbiased, you must be trustworthy. You must trust the work you're doing, because you believe you have a quality. Otherwise, they go elsewhere. They go look for information. Well, we go to Google and get all kind of information. You don't know if it's good or bad, but it's there. So they need something better. And now they do something even better. It's probably, I was talking to some people from university, from industries, and I said, okay, I had a meeting with some industry people, top people. They said, what do you want? They said, well, that's not enough. I don't want raw information, I mean papers. I want knowledge. It's something different, French knowledge. I want knowledge to be able to solve the problems I have to. So we have to do something better now, how to get massage and do some value added in terms of the papers, the raw papers, to transform to knowledge that industry can use. Next. So there are another indices of quality, number of citations in patents. So patents, cite papers, so SB has 3 times more than anybody else. Second one. Next. And as I said, we have 3.7 million text articles, a database, and they get about 8 million downloads a month. A little bit over that. Now, if you start dividing this by month, by day, you're going to reach several per second, every second of the year. And it's amazing. Actually, of course, this has a cost. It has to generate money, it has to charge for that because you have to maintain a huge number of servers and all the access doors that to bring people to log in, and have to have backup sites. So if there's a problem, like we had a major thunderstorm in New Jersey, you have to switch to another place. So there's a lot of security. People will go there and play around with the articles. So it's an amazing operation. Next. Talking quickly about for students, 18th of October, coming up soon. There's one of the, I think there's several competitions for students. But this is one of the extreme software programming competition worldwide. And you have to stay groups of students 24 hours working. And there'll be several challenges being given to you. You have to solve them and keep the next one, go to the next one, and so on. And so I urge you to participate in such groups. Last year, I'm trying to remember exactly the order, but I think number 1 was from Macedonia, and number 2 from Peru.
The number 1 was from Peru.
Oh, Peru is number 1, then 2 was Macedonia.
Confrades.
Yeah,
That's the name of the team. Confrades.
Yeah, then number 2 was Macedonia. So they're all these countries which are not very developed countries, they're still winning. So you should participate more. I thought it was the other one, but so Peru was number 1. Next. You stay there or you don't go there? Feeling good there? Okay.
Spending a good time here.
Good. Okay. So one thing I want to talk about, it's important for the students, is that engineering is becoming different as years go forward. And also it's becoming different because of this. This is a tough curve. That basic mostly tells you that what you learn has a time goes down, decay fast. So there's so after 10 years, what you know is not worth nothing. It will not be valid anymore. So it's like a medicine. They say, well, you can use up to so many years. But now, basically, what your diploma in the university, that your knowledge you learn will go down fast. And because technology evolves very, very fast, rapidly, so there's a time of validity of your knowledge. Of course, you have to learn how to think at the university, and that you don't lose. So your ability to think is the most important thing. The basic skills in mathematics are very important.
Time constantly. 3.5 years.
Yeah. Yes. So, next. So the first lesson is that you need to be lifelong learners. You have to continually, unfortunately, I have this bad news for you. Once you do your finish your university, you cannot stop. Everybody, when they finish their university, they start saying, well, now I'm done, now I'm going to work, make money, forget about studying. No. Otherwise, you won't make any money after a few years. So you have to be lifelong learners. And there are all kinds of new things that are coming about for engineers. So more technology becoming important for society, of course, the more engineers are important. And I don't think any country will be a leading country in the future without good engineers and a good number of engineers. But these engineers must have not only the typical thing of analytical skills and creativity, they must have other things. They must be able to attack multidisciplinary problems. And that's not typical of our current curricula at university. Usually a very narrow-minded curriculum. I know that even in my university, it takes so long to change the curriculum. Because professors don't want to teach those things, and they want to get the students. So it's important to have a multidisciplinary background. So maybe you should take classes in other things, just electrical engineering, in telecommunications. Maybe go there and take a course in biomedical engineering and some other things, like electronics. They also may have to have the social technical judgment. A lot of the engineering develops these days, they have a big impact on society. So once you do your design, you have to take into account what's the impact on society of that design. For communication skills is something which, when I was in school, nobody cared too much. So I had to do the mathematics, forget about the rest. I didn't have to talk. So I didn't know, everybody's basic thought that way. I don't have to know how to talk. That's for lawyers. I don't need to know how to write, because that's some other people do that. I'm an engineer. I know mathematics and physics and circuits and electromagnetic waves and probabilities. So that's what I know. Of course, if you do like that, you're going to be out of your jobs very soon. Unless you're a brilliant guy or university, you have to be very good. If you're very, very, very good, but that's in a very field, you can do whatever you want. But usually, even those, you won't reach very high. If you're an average person, you must be a good speaker to sell your ideas. You must write well for people to understand what you want to. I remember when I was at Bell Labs, there were people which are... Bell Labs, of course, was the most important research organization in the world, so Nobel Prizes and so on. So we could have some strange people. There was one guy who walked backwards. He turned like it was a tank. He stopped on feet. The other guy who had his badge in the back, and it was like 10 degrees below zero outside. He came with a t-shirt. So there are all kinds of these crazy people. But that's very few. In a normal industry, you won't be able to have that. So that's for Bell Labs and the old Bell Labs, not the old Bell Labs, when they could afford to pay these guys to do whatever they want. They look crazy. Of course, business and individual skills. And something which is not there, you will have to be able to start understanding regulatory issues that impact our design. So we have to take some course on regulatory issues. And another important thing is ethical issues. Because lots of things we are doing today, as you know, are creating a lot of controversy. And more will create. So if there's always this, okay, you allow people to spy too much on you, or how much are you willing to give us access to information versus have your privacy. And that's all that happens everywhere. It happens in who makes the decision about you at some point, even medical treatment. And so there are a lot of, the more and more what we develop is impacting directly the life of people very closely. And therefore the ethics part of this component becomes important. Of course, I also think that everybody has to be professional. That's very important. Have integrity, so we're not politicians, so we must have integrity. In Brazil, there's a problem. Every politician goes forever. There's always they all have done something wrong. Next. Okay, so let's talk about technology going forward now. From why we stopped in 1999, let's go forward. So that's what we have for internet growth. So lots of people all over the world, that's the percentage of population use internet. And years going by until last year. And also, actually, Latin America is a very good user of we like to talk. So whenever if it's in person, through the internet, through Facebook, we like to talk. Especially our women. Whenever the women in Brazil have some characteristics. One of them is that they can talk together at the same time and can understand themselves. I don't know why. They go into the elevator of the school, and they talk. And then this girl is talking, not only talking too, and somehow they're able to multiplex that and they're able to understand themselves. This goes against our theory. Usually to provide statistical multiplexing, you assume that each person talks about 40% or 38% of the time. Because first of all, you listen to other people for half of the time, but that doesn't apply to this. Actually, they don't. They talk at the same time. And then, of course, there's time to breathe, and time to think. So in the end, you can talk about 30% of the time using the channel. If you talk about designing a channel that has multiplexing, well, have to be careful and design that for Latin America. Anyway, just a joke. But anyway, that's we like to talk. Actually, I remember that old times, satellite communications. Everybody designed satellite channel for the demand of 3 minutes each call, average. In Brazil, was over 6. So I don't have a problem. So Brazil became a very important partner in Intelsat because they use something like more. Next. Okay, so now is the growth of traffic, not megabytes, exabytes, and zettabytes coming too. So exponential, dominated, of course, by video, and so there's sorry, this is for fixed. So a lot of mobile traffic, going and so on. Internet traffic, of course, is fixed communication. And so talking about the average growth is 34% a year. So that's a big growth. Next. And that's the mobile traffic. Going even faster. You know that all doing accessing videos and all kinds of pictures and games. So this is, and then the growth has been 92% a year. Very strong. But it's good and bad. It's good because you have to keep investing in infrastructure for the operators. It's good because those which are communication years will be making money for a while. Next. Next. So that's what happened in the past. You first had terminals that you work on from a big computer. Maybe use a digital computer, had a terminal. Then Daniela got her PC. Then there's another era that she marketed well. And then, of course, you come down to the smartphones and iPads and the tablets. And things keep growing here. The number of exabytes of data. Next. Okay, that's another problem now. Here we have like applications, very limited application. It's not what we call applications now, but application. Next. And next. So talk about that. So now this is growing. You're probably going to go in the future for millions of applications available. They can search for your device. And for the operators, that's very bad because each time you open an application, it's almost like a new user in that particular terminal. And then, of course, there will be lots of users, and I'll get to this later, that you had a lot of users, and now you're over a billion users, close to a billion users in, actually more than a billion, because just China Mobile has written on 800 million subscribers, so terminals. So it's a few billion, I see 5 billion terminals all over the world these days. So we are in this area here with billions of users. But this will grow more. Next. So now you have this Facebook application. This is the growth. So another exponential growth from when you start using this or somewhere like here, and where the world 600 here or something. That's a huge number. Now it's a billion people in the world using Facebook. Next. And again, Latin America does a good job of using it. Think of dating, and so there's a lot of interest in Facebook. Interesting enough, US is not as large compared. So the US has never been very big in using Facebook. The US actually, if I for you see that most of the users like Facebook are in Europe, in Asia, mostly India, and in Latin America. The U.S., the population they have is not as strong as they. So that's a go back.
I can go back.
You're getting fast. So So that's an interesting, like Latin America is important, people here do use a lot of these tools and joining the future. Next. So now we're going to this new, again we start being framed, we saw a picture of those IBM 79 to 1044, we went to PCs and terminals, and then you start learning the computer, and then we have the web, and now we got this cloud and Facebooks and so on. So it's a new era, new fourth generation of things. So, Internet of Things. So now we get to this 50 to 100 billion users that we talked about before, is that we're going to have, in addition to people, I said, in addition to, you're going to have the devices, smart devices, smart things connected to the internet. And then if you have that, you're going to have a lot of new things with IP. So you're going to be able to communicate between the physical and the non-physical worlds. And so there will be a lot of, mostly these are due to sensors, in some way use meters and sensors being used in different applications, from the transportation to logistics, environment, the smart buildings, industrial plants, the health, they all be using either devices like a medical device, we're going to have also signal processing and radio capability, and on device, even small sensors also have signal processing RF capability. And that's will be the trend from now on. So we really advance on this. Logistics can really benefit a lot because they have sensors that actually, the bad part, they always think about making money out of us. But for example, in a supermarket now, they can have they monitor the number of, using some RFID or sensors, the number of pieces they have in the shelf, and they start to go down, they can raise the price immediately. They have a digital label with the price, which is not fixed, they just keep doing it. So if you have like one left, you put the price up, and so that's really easy to have a screen with an adjuster communicating with some main computer, which knows how much is left on stock. And the same thing, like for example, airlines do now in a different way. So, but the challenge now is that instead of having 5 billion things connected to the internet, let's go to 50 billion, 100 billion. So there's a scaling problem here. Next. And there's my very simplified model what's happening on our network society. You have the broadband access in our mobiles. We have lots of sensor networks connecting through the mobile. We have a very big communications channel that will take it to the cloud, so they embed. Where the things are stored and some application will be run in the cloud. So they're not only storing things there, they're doing services there. And so in the very simplified way or schematic way, those are the major components of this society. And of course, there'll be all applications on top of this. Here, smart meters, but eventually this will be they connect in all of these ways. Next. So going back to sensors, so we actually are going to see a sensorized society, world of the Earth. I don't know that again what this is good or bad, but that's where we're going. So today you have a lot of those. So we have sensors for motion, for lighting, in your car, in your home. You have the sensors for level of water, electricity. You have a sensor related to temperature that measures CO2. And you have lots of sensors related to safety and security. They are all everywhere, you don't pay attention to them. They are, but now people are developing much more interesting things. And I don't know how that will be. You want to really have sensors doing what our natural sensors do. For example, if I have a sensor that can measure how particular fabric viscosity is, or then I can detect problems, or so that's some self-application be able to be automated if you can have these things here. I don't see how it can. they're trying. Touch is very important for several applications. Be able to distinguish things by touching. So once you have that, then when they say, okay, then I create a nervous system for the Earth. Because we have all these sensors talking to each other, measuring things like we do today. And if you think you're interested in that, there's some interesting projects for HP and IBM in this area. And that's an interesting perspective, frightening maybe, but a lot of signal processing people work with this. And of course, lots of people working how to connect these sensors. That's one of the hottest topics. Where they have to be efficient, power efficient, be small, cheap, to integrate a lot of sensors in one chip, and that's one major challenge of people today that build integrated circuits. How can they take all these sensors in one chip? And they have to be self-organized, but there's some interesting challenges. This is kind of a old topic. Sensors have to work to just self-organized and energy efficient. But now, depending on the application, have to be mobility aware, know about mobility, and what's important, delay. Delay is a major challenge because until now, we will not care about delay. But now, if you're talking about application like traffic, cars, now if you take too long to issue the warning, you're going to crash. So it's one of some health applications which are very dependent on delay. And this is one of the, I think we have seen this in other talks, but once you have all the sensors, all the IPs and things, then you can start to communicate with the things. And you can probably do searches like this one. I tell you search, what's the address of my hotel? You're going to say, well, where did I leave my keys, or did I left my glasses, or this sort. And maybe helpful, maybe dangerous. The wrong person does the search, you may trouble. Next. And there's another issue interesting here that, again, depending on sensors and communications and community, is that there's this topic of collective intelligence, which means that you have, suppose this group here agrees that they like to participate in something which improve their something in their life. Let's say they want to know whether the traffic is bad in the street, or they want to make sure the temperature of this building is pleasant for everyone. Now, what can happen that is everyone here, cell phone, they communicate to the other. You don't have to participate, and then make some decision, send somewhere else, somewhere to take an action, or can inform you. Look, don't go that way because the road is bad because you're afraid. You don't have to. You don't know why. How they. It should be anonymous. But basically, people in this group have shown you there are some problem in that direction, so you should go somewhere else, and so on. So, but you don't have to participate. The machines will do it for you. But of course, it depends on security, anonymous, because you don't want people to give information as you don't want to. But that's a lot of companies are working trying to find this for some business. And how can I offer this to their, for example, a cell phone operator? So if you can agree on a community, people agree on something and offer this service. So a very interesting, challenging, but it could be helpful. So just to continue on, we are somewhere here, actually we are here, somewhere here. But this Internet of Things is being perceived by several companies as a forced industrial revolution. To be able to change all your way your plants operate because of all these sensors communicating. And one example is that General Electric, the power company, invested 2 years ago $2 billion in a software group, about 400 people, and just to so that they can get into this wave of Internet of Things and change their industrial practice and the way they do things. So people expect that this will change a lot how industry operates. It's really amazing about this industry revolution. When I was in this thing in Switzerland, Germany, the power, really, that power had been dismantled. That was created in 1898, but they had pieces of it. And the quality of the craftsmanship, the way they work with the metal was very thick. It's amazing how they could have seen at that time so precise, so robust, lasts for 100 years. Well, nobody would do that today, because they want you to, this plan of obsolescence, you have to buy a new one. Next. So a lot of things will benefit from this network of people and things. Of course, we know about the smart grid and energy efficiency, smart living, or smart, I'll come back to the smart buildings, transportation systems, telemedicine, and of course, safety and security, hopefully will be in a good way implemented. So next. But there are several challenges, like for these kind of things. There are challenges in the actual sensor and the actuated technology. There's challenges in the networking part, protocol, the scalability, addressing, how we're going to address 50 billion devices by groups, individually. There are problems with people doing their own solutions, and we have to work with that. There are a lot of big data being generated, and all these, the most important thing, as I said, almost all development we have going forward is a social problem. So, will people accept this or not? Will they trust or not? If they don't trust, we won't be successful. And of course, civil rights and so on. There will be a lot of discussion when these start to grow. So that's why I say engineers may be now society aware, but there will be a lot of impact. I'm going to skip this one, but we're going to talk about, if you want, we can talk about challenges of wireless, but I think that's so you want to talk? Anybody here work in wireless communications? No. Go next. Okay, so let's talk about something people like. Energy efficiency or inefficiency. So, I work in ICT, in communications. Some of you will work in information and technology. So, information technology is great. It helps a lot to improve the energy efficiency. But it also consumes a lot of energy. So, next slide. It helps a lot in different ways. You can have a reduced energy consumption in transportation, in industry process, in buildings, and even the energy, how it's distributed and generated, can increase a lot of the consumption because you're using information communication technology. Now, next slide will be the bad part. They also consume a lot of energy. Do you imagine how much energy Facebook consumes or Google? How many servers do you think they have? 100,000? Yeah, they probably have more like 300,000 servers each. And the total servers in the world is like 500 million. So so each one of them has a huge number of servers. They communicate and they have to operate the whole time. So we have a problem of these things consuming a lot of, and growing very fast. And you saw internet users are growing too. So the energy consumption is growing very fast in the information technology area. All of us, if you look at your bag and the travel, you have a cell phone or two, have a computer, a laptop, tablet. They all have to be produced, and then they have to also you have to put power in them, to charge them. So basically, this industry is growing very fast, such that soon we're going to pass the airline industry, which of course we use a lot of carbon footprint. Well, that's we have medium planes every year flying, burning fuel. But the interesting thing, a question I saw once was this here. Today, the energy used in some advanced countries, just for this area, is larger than the energy produced by other countries in Latin America. So, meaning that it's conceivable that at some point some country will not be able to advance anymore in use of ICT because it does not have enough energy, but they have to buy. So there's a chance we're going to have a new digital divide because of energy. several countries are operating close to capacity. Latin America is good because a lot of hydroelectric power, but still is a big challenge. So there's something to pay attention. Africa, for course, is a good example that maybe they will be. It's almost like the name of the rose again. People at the church have the knowledge, everybody else can breathe it out. People have energy or the knowledge. Next. But anyway, these all connected, and hopefully the efficiency will be. These are servers that I could have all over the place. I have seen some very interesting studies on connection services. Next. So again, this is another thing you all interested on, probably all the students about autonomous cars. It's a problem. I don't like this. To be sitting here, nobody here. Being driven by nobody. But I don't like it. I also don't like this thing, this server using all my luggage truck, but I put my luggage. So that's something that has to be increased. But it's being developed in very interesting developments. Next. There are problems. One of the I like is this one here, legal framework. That's very important in the US. The US, everybody sues everybody. So now, there's a crash. Who is sued? The owner of the car, the guy who did the software, or the hardware, who is responsible for the crash? It'll be an interesting discussion. Next. But there are other interesting things like how to adapt to it. Because you don't really want a car, I don't think you need or will like fully autonomous. You like a car which somehow you drive, but the car takes control as needed. And although a lot of people think that because of the increasing population, there will be a need to have really autonomous cars, so they don't traffic lights are all connected. Everything can move faster if everything is all connected. So there's nobody driving wrongly or faster. But then I want to see actually that's interesting. I want to see this Google car in the middle of Buenos Aires or Rio. See how it reacts, whether it reacts fast enough. Because in Rio, you have this idea of virtual lanes. Everybody drives like this, so there are more lanes than actual lanes. I mean, there are like 4 lanes, virtual lanes, and a road that has 3 lanes. Now, I wonder if the car will like that, this car being driven, and like you always drive looking at your behind to see if the guy is coming left or right. And so, I still look curious to see a car like that in a difficult traffic situation. Driving California, it's easy. Driving Paris here next. No, interesting. You're gonna finish soon.
No, the
okay.
microphone.
Okay. But I think people can hear me without the microphone. This is an interesting development. Good and bad. We are living longer. We're living longer, meaning that we are not quite the same as we were like 30 years old. So we would like to live longer in an independent way. So we need to develop better service for healthcare. There's a bigger demand on healthcare with people living longer. And there are interesting, so we need to create smart environments to improve the quality of life of people which are older. Actually, this is an interesting one. Last year, I presented this competition, change world competition for students. And last year I went to projects, and several of them had to do with fall detection. Why fall detection? And then a cousin of mine who was like 70 something, she fell. She had a bad problem. She couldn't get up. So she was at home by herself, and she couldn't get up. So it took 1 day, 24 hours, for her brother to call to figure out something was wrong, and then someone go there and rescue her. Didn't eat, and so these are actually important things. It's not so hard to develop, but it can change the horizontal speed, vertical speed, and so on. And of course, what you want is once you detect something, you call a relative or call a doctor. Please take a look at something similar to a fall happened. Please make sure the person is okay, and so on. So that's what you want. So you want something which can communication, not only detect, but can communicate to someone important and resolve that issue. So, next. So what you want is some scenario like this. Everything is smart. Nobody else to be done, right? and a smart grid, control, intelligent space, smart appliance, they all communicate, and a smart city, which is smart buildings compose smart city, intelligent transportation also is part of smart cities, and of course allow open living for other people. I also had some very interesting jokes about this from many years ago, that we did not really have any chance of things being connected, but I go, okay, have a scale in your home, step on it. You're overweight, so they immediately locks the refrigerator. But this part of it, you don't eat that. Now you have to lose weight, so no. And I saw once a demonstration, very nicely. You had a flat surface in the kitchen, but it had a RFID reader. So you threw a lot of food there. Each one of them had RFID too, saying what they are. Then immediately, some recipes came up on the screen using what is available in your home. Now, of course, that's established scale, the height, weight, then of course some of the rest will change, so no one cannot relate to that. So it was interesting connection between the refrigerator, what you had, what you want to do, how much you weigh. Interesting thing. I'm going to skip a full section. So, anyway, so these are, come on, back. You're going forward, back.
Oh, back, sure.
Back. Okay, so just for the students, one very interesting area these days is this whole area, the intersection of electrical engineering and life science. And a lot of interesting problems, like, okay, this one's you already know. You work with these binary networks and people using watches. And you kind of figure this in here. You can have a lot of servers that are network servers that work together. But these, of course, are more interesting problems. How can you model the brain as a wireless network, and then from there realize how computers can control the rest of the body, and applications are coming. Next. So one example of interesting application is if you can add something inside of a chip, really small, like the size of a cell actually, a very small, millimeter square device which has communication capability and actuator capability. Now, one problem is that, for example, if you treat cancer, often you kill the guy with the treatment as opposed to, or you kind of make a choice whether to be killed by the vaccine or by the illness. And so here, if you can, this small, you can, for example, inject the medicine just in those cells which are needed. No, you don't make a big damage to the rest of your body. You just treat what is needed. And of course, you can also monitor when you make surgeries. How things are evolving around when the surgery was done. So you have a very small chip controlled by outside, from outside. So you have to communicate outside, you accept controls. You can really do a lot of good things in terms of treatment. Localized treatment. I say localized in really small place. Next. Of course, prosthetics is another interesting area. We have to model how can you communicate your brain with electric wires. But if you connect wires in your nerves, you have to communicate. That's an interesting challenge. But it's advanced, of course, as you saw next in the World Cup. The first kick of the World Cup was this guy in the tetraplegic moving these rivers with control by his artificial prosthetics, controlled by his brain, and external skeletal, but external And so these, of course, are still like too big, but this has to be now with its size and more easy to use. It will happen. Every single happening technology, just that you have to know how to use it. And of course, there are lots of other things happening which are important to make this all I said happening. Displays, of course, are beautiful evolution displays. You have these flexible displays and very happening in the building computations and so on. Simple technology, natural interface, energy storage for major problems, and augmented reality. And now I'm going to jump, oh yeah, jump. This is all happening like wait, whatever. So, look at that. Just want to say that there is a competition for smart cities. IEEE has created a project, Smart Cities. We have selected first Guadalajara as the first city, and actually I was the one right there.
This year, Buenos Aires participated.
And then, yeah, so now it's amazing. Now we have to have 10 at some point, 2 in each continent. So you open the bids for 2 more. And of course, we chose one in Asia, one in Europe, because we had one in Latin America. But there were 30 cities that applied. I think nobody wants to be in a dumb city. But here in Latin America, there are Medellin, Montevideo, Campinas, and there are all cities that applied for this. So this is a very interesting project going on. I urge you to take a look and maybe apply for that. So just to finalize, there's a lot of big challenges for the world. There are a lot of looking for engineering solutions that we need. The science, the engineering, all have to see. Most of them have to do because we have, oops, no, 4, 10, stop. I did that. Oops. So actually, most of the problems have to do because we have an aging society, and that aging society is putting pressure because of the increasing population, and then you don't have enough resources in the world, water, food. We're having problems with that, mobility, major problems with mobility. If you go to Beijing, for example, it's a parking lot instead of the street. And so there's a lot of issues there you see in the picture of people. That's where it comes autonomous cars, autonomous intelligent traffic. We have problems with energy going very fast, 40 times in 40 years. An aging society also requires a more additional health care needs. But people, although they live longer, they don't have the same capabilities that they had 60 years earlier. And then I put this here because that's one of my interesting thoughts. I like that I think to do something at the start here. Is that I'm not, if I go to Mainz in Germany and I know German, I'm going to open the Gutenberg Bible. There are a few there, and I can read it, what he wrote 600 years ago. How many of you think that in 2500 I'll be able to open my PDF file that I generated today with this presentation? How many of you think that Office 355 you compare to Windows 8 or Office 97? So I think there's a big challenge there, because you're making everything digital because it's cheaper, it takes less space. People like to use their tablets, Kindles, and so on. But I'm not so sure what's going to happen with our knowledge in 500 years from now. I think today I can find papers written by Newton. And maybe it's not needed anymore. Maybe it's just all these things are old-fashioned. But I still think there'll be a problem. So I think maybe we should be one of doing these things, but we have a big database of articles, 3.7 million articles. How we can worry about how can we keep this knowledge for the future. I mean, often you have your pictures in a server, on a hard disk, it goes down, and sometimes you lose a lot of things. So how can we maintain what's important? Should we have it in paper still what's important? Those things are really, really important. You know it's change the direction of science and engineering. Have those in print. I don't know, something which has to be discussed. How can we preserve our history?
So some library in the United States is working in that.
I suppose Library of Congress should be doing some work there.
They say that they also have things in ancient devices, for example in diskettes. So how are they going to build that after some time? So they are worried about
Yeah, boys look at some time like 20 years, not 5 years, so that's a big challenge. They need a standard so people store things or print things. I don't know exactly what, but something has to be discussed. Anyway, thanks very much. I think I went over time, but it's not only my fault. Daniela asked for 2-hour talk, and then she cut to an hour, so I don't. Thank you.